We've come a long way, baby, and so have marriages.
Yeah, women are redefining what works for them in their modern day marriage. And this is Chick2Chick.
This podcast is sponsored by Steve Gephardt and Moneyline Lending. Life's journey has many stages, including marriage and buying a first home. Steve and Moneyline are dedicated to helping everyone in every stage of life achieve the dream of home ownership. Connect with Steve today to experience a worry-free home buying process. Go to MoneylineMortgages.com or SteveSellsEverything.com.
You know, I think when people look at marriages, it's kind of like one or the other. You know, you're either living together and that's great, or the woman moves with the man wherever he's going to go to get his job. I mean, I just feel like that's traditionally how it's been. And it's funny because, you know, our podcasts always come out of knowing something about someone about something, right? And so you were talking about the interesting guest that we will have coming up in her modern day marriage. And then you went, wait a minute.
I
had a modern day marriage
about
a
this.
bazillion years ago.
I completely
Yeah, isn't that
forgot
funny?
about this, but I got married, and 3 months after we got married, I got a job in one city, and my husband got a job in another city, and we lived apart for 2 years. Not only that, we didn't even have the same day off. I worked Monday through Friday night shift. He worked Wednesday through Sunday. I completely forgot about
isn't
this.
that funny?
This was like a million years ago, too. I don't even want to say it. It was that long ago.
Yeah.
And so I guess we were a bit of a trendsetter then.
Look
Because,
at you, yeah.
Like, I remember that was unheard of, and my parents were like, "You're doing what? Are you crazy?" And I'm like,
Whoa.
"I'm doing this for my career, and this is what I want to do."
Yeah.
But the thing is, marriages have changed.
They have evolved, for
And
sure.
divorce, and people are getting remarried. And I love the fact that women are going, you know what? I'm going to take ownership of this.
Yeah, I need to do what works for me.
I'm going to redefine this, and I'm going to make this work for me.
Yeah.
Which
So that brings us
up
to our guest.
Our guest, Katie Schmidt-Bunner, is joining us today. Hey, Katie.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We love that you're here. So tell us about your little love story. Tell us all about who you are. And we know that you were divorced. And tell us about Chris. Tell us everything.
Oh, everything. How long do you have?
About 15 minutes.
Let's see. Yeah, I got divorced. I want to say 2000. I'm going to mess it up, so I'm not going to give a year.
Okay.
But more than 10 years ago, maybe 14 or 13 years ago, it doesn't matter. And I lived in Westminster, Maryland, 2 daughters. And a year or two after we got separated, I met Chris. We met on Match.com. And we always said we'd love to do a commercial for Match.com. Well, I would. He wouldn't. So we met on Match.com. And, you know, it was a great match, a great connection. And the only problem was we lived about 58 miles apart. His kids were in high school, mine were in high school and middle school at the time. So, and I had custody of my kids on the weekends and vice versa. And there were lacrosse games. I mean, you guys know, right?
Yep.
Your life is takes a backseat to your kids, and ours was no different. And it's probably one of the things that attracted me to him, was that he did value never missing a game, or, you know, if he had time with his kids, he was not going to see me, and vice versa. So, you know, probably for the first year, we saw each other every other weekend. Every so often, a night during the week, we'd meet in the middle, maybe for dinner. But the weekends we spent every other weekend together. So the plan was that in the summer or fall of 2021, when my daughter graduated from high school, that I was going to move in with him, find a job up in the Harrisburg area, because I was working all the way down in DC. So that really would have just been too much of a commute. Then the pandemic happened and a few things changed. And I got this job opportunity in Baltimore, which is much closer, about an hour and a half, maybe closer to Harrisburg than where I was working. And I thought, well, maybe I can make it work. And then with remote work and only working 3 days a week, I could definitely make that work. So we moved in together. I want to say it was October of 2020. I'm getting my years confused. 2021. I can't remember now at this point. I'm a little bit nervous too. So it was either 20 or 21.
You guys ended up getting married. And
Just recently, yeah.
you recently got married, but what's
Hmm.
different is he's in Harrisburg, you're living together in Harrisburg, but you didn't give up your career and you haven't cut off contact with your children. So describe what you're doing now to
Okay,
maintain your career and contact with your kids.
got it. So yes, I live in Harrisburg or Camp Hill or Mechanicsburg, whatever you want to call it. I work 3 days a week down in Baltimore. I usually do 3 days in a row. So I'm staying 2 nights in a hotel in Baltimore. It gives me the opportunity to see both my daughters because my eldest daughter, Sophie, lives in downtown Baltimore in Federal Hill. So she's very close. And then my youngest still lives with her father, who's out in Westminster. So at least one of the 2 nights I'm down here, ideally, the three of us come together for dinner. We'll typically meet somewhere that's equidistant for everybody. There are some weeks where one kid's available one night and one kid's available the other night. In that case, I have two dinners out with the daughters separately. And then I come home. And then I work the rest of the week at home. Like this week, I'm down here Monday through Wednesday. I will head home tomorrow and work remotely Thursday and Friday.
I was going to say, why is it so important for you to make sure that you still have what Katie wants? You didn't just go, oh, I'll find whatever kind of job just so I
Yeah,
can stay close by. What was that shift?
I think more than ever, once your kids are up and out of the house, what else is there to focus on? And I'm not saying I don't focus on Chris or my husband, but it's kind of like, wow, I can be like 80% work now instead of, 40% work, 60% mom. Not that I'm not still a mom, but once they're up and out and you don't have schedules to worry about or events to go to, you can kind of focus on yourself. And I got really lucky that the stars aligned, and Chris is so accommodating and agreeable as he is to let me do this. I shouldn't say let.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible. I understand now that I've said it, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
He's supporting you.
Right.
Yes.
He
Yes.
support. What if he said, no, Katie, you're not doing this. We just got married. You're not gonna.
We're finally together.
We're here. We were apart for 10 years. Now you're here. Now you're back to being in a hotel 2 to 3 nights a week. What if he said to you, yeah, this isn't gonna work? How would you have handled that?
I would say I'm sad, but I get it. I mean, this is going to last forever, right? My marriage. This, as much as I love my job and it's a huge piece of who I am, if I have to weigh one against the other, it's not even it's an easy decision to make. It would be sad, but I wouldn't be resentful because I want, having a failed marriage behind me. I don't want to have another one because then I'm the common denominator, right? So I value my marriage and my family much more than my job. But I feel lucky that I have a great marriage and a great job and great kids.
Yeah, you have two daughters. I have
Yeah.
all daughters, and I feel like as a mom, it's really important for me to kind of show and do and walk that talk. Do you feel like you're doing that for your girls?
Absolutely. They make fun of me. But yeah, I feel like I am doing that. I feel like it is sinking in. Um, Sometimes when I respond to their texts, I respond and they can tell when I'm in work mode. I don't know if you guys do that as well.
Oh yeah, my kids can
Um,
tell too.
Yeah.
yeah, it's that tone and they make fun of it, but or somehow, some way they're soaking it in, right? It's a part of their world. It's a part of who I am. So even though I'm not ramming it down their throats, they know it's important to me and it's part of my identity. So yeah, and like my oldest, she graduated during the pandemic, and now she's a labor and delivery nurse down here in Baltimore, and she loves what she does, and I love that she loves what she does. And so I'd like to think I had some role in that, but I don't know, maybe I didn't, but I'd like to think I did.
What did they think about this arrangement? And that you're down there in a hotel and you're in
Uh-huh.
Harrisburg, then you're back to Baltimore. And what do they think of this?
If I'm being honest, they weren't thrilled about it, but they also understand that they're grown-ups now. And when I first introduced the idea, they said, well, why doesn't he just move down here? It makes more sense. And it kind of does. I mean, he works from home. He could almost work anywhere. His kids are now out of the state. Mine are still in the state. So there were some tough conversations, but I love where we live up in Camp Hill. I love the friendships I've made up there, the networks we have, and I know Chris is very connected up there. Um, So I told them this is my decision. I want your blessing. I don't need your approval, but I'm going to do it anyways. But I'd like your blessing. They still give me little digs sometimes. They still work the guilt a little bit, but I mean, they adore Chris and they love Chelsea and Joey. So, and they're grown up. They don't need me that much anymore.
So you brought something up though. Why didn't he move down there? Because as you pointed out, he works from home and your office is there and your daughters are there and his kids are out of state. So why didn't he move to Baltimore?
I never said let's move to Baltimore. That's one reason, right? I never asked the question. Maybe part of that's because I know him. I don't want to generalize men, but I think
Go ahead and do it, Katie. It's Chick2Chick. Go ahead, Katie.
I think sometimes they're not as agile as we are and go with the flow. He is a very routine person. And so I think it would have been harder for him to redesign his life than for me. I love change. Plus he loves golf. I mean, if he's not on the golf course and his golf course a couple times a week, he becomes a different person sometimes when he doesn't get all the golf strokes in. And it's such a huge part of his life. I didn't feel that strongly about it. I'll be honest with you. Also, the town where I lived in Westminster, that's my ex-husband's town. Like he grew up there. So there's a part of me too that was like, this town's not my hometown, you know?
Yeah.
So it was easier for me to leave there.
What message would you have for any woman who is in your position? You know, she's kind of trying to figure out what's the best thing for everyone. Isn't that what women do? Instead of really thinking inward on what do I really want to do? What would your advice be?
I don't think I'm the best person to come to for advice, but my advice would be don't let the guilt take over you. I find myself feeling guilty a lot, either guilty that I've let my kids down, that I'm not down here all the time. Every time I leave the house, I feel guilty that I'm leaving Chris, especially since we just got a new puppy who is like ruling our lives right now. So I try and compartmentalize that. You know, I've gotten my kids' blessing. I have Chris's blessing, but there's still a little piece and it's like, am I not doing enough? Am I not nurturing enough? So I don't know what I should probably give myself advice, right? Like, don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
That's fair. My advice. Yeah. I don't know that I have advice, but I would say if you find something that makes you really happy, try and find a way to get it into your life, to design your life around it. And I don't just mean my job. I mean, my family, my husband. I'm really lucky. And I'm especially lucky that I was able to have everything.
So Katie, thanks for coming on the podcast. And again, congratulations. You know, she said something that's so interesting, and I struggle with this all the time. What is it with women? We feel guilty all the time.
Yeah, I know.
If you work, you feel guilty. If you don't work, you feel guilty. If you stay home with your husband, you feel guilty. If you leave, men just are like, whatever. We need to stop with the guilt, ladies. Stop.
And learn to do the things that you want to really do and what you want to pursue. Yeah. Well, we are so happy they were with us today. And do us a favor, head over to our YouTube page, Chick2Chick on YouTube, like and subscribe. And until we're back to chirp about another topic.